Hey, it's syndicated radio talk show host, author, singer Al Cole, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. I come from CBS Radio. My shows are nationally syndicated, and I've helped pave the way to treating women, guys too. And coming up, a lady who you're going to enjoy. Her name is F.A Green, and she's calling all the way from England today. She's written a marvelous book with just a single word as the title, Huntington. Whoa. Now, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean everything. You know, whatever you want it to mean right now, Huntington. And some of my listeners will be asking, well, Al, what does Huntington mean? I'll tell you. It means how much God loves you. Oh, I see, Al. We're going to be talking about spirituality. Yes, absolutely. We talk about spirituality a lot on People of Distinction, and we have people from all over the country, all over the world, who contribute to that. Their understanding of God, their understanding of love, and we love that. On People of Distinction, we think that love is the most important thing in the world, and that beautiful energy of love that God is. So I want you to listen to Frances and enjoy what she's saying, learn from what she's saying as well, with her book, Huntington. And it's available to you on Amazon.com. And I will say that Frances was available to me, came to me, by Author Reputation Press, one of the best in the business for moving books. So if you have a book out there that you want to move, you got to move it through authorreputationpress.com. Welcome, Frances, to People of Distinction with Al Cole. How are you today, Frances?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you as well.
Good.
And now we're going to be talking about your book, Huntington. So the first thing is, for my listeners, why did you name your book Huntington, Frances?
Because that's the name of the main character in the book.
The main character. So this is a novel, a fiction, and the main character is named Huntington. And what does the main character do in the book to show how much God loves our human family, and also how much God loves Huntington?
Yeah. He has to go through a number of difficult situations, and which he finds himself in. He starts life as a poor boy, living in the 20th century, beginning of 20th century, before the First World War. He lives in a broken down house, and he's in charge of his so-called brother and his two smaller brothers. They are accused of burning their school down.
They're burning the school down?
Yes. And they are taken by a professor to a rectory.
I see. And that is that the first time that Huntington learns about God?
Yes. Also reading the book alongside and stopping to talk to us about it. She begins in the prologue. And then at the end of every chapter, there's a little epilogue that tells us all about a girl called Nesta, whose story is very like Huntington's story.
Mm-hmm.
She has also been accused of setting her school alight.
What is the main thing that Huntington learns about God?
He learns that God loves him enough to forgive him, and he has to get in touch with God and call out to him tell him he wants him in his life.
Yeah. All right. So God forgives Huntington, and Huntington is just a boy at that time. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And why does God have to forgive him? What did Huntington do that needs God's forgiveness at that point, Francis?
Well, very few of us get through our lives without having something to forgive, do we? He's supposed to have been accused of lighting this fire. The book opens with him with a bucket emptying cold water over people.
Oh, boy. Oh, no. Yeah.
So, through the book, he does other things.
I see. All right, so he's a prankster. All right, now we're starting to get it here. Give me a second. Give me a moment. I'm going to explain this to my listening audience. Okay, so Francis wrote a book called Huntington. Huntington is the main character. And, eventually he gets to know God. And he was just a little boy at the time. I think Francis said 11 years old. And when he gets to know God, well, he finds out that, well, God has to forgive him for certain things. Because Huntington is a little bit of a prankster, as maybe we all are when we're 11 years old. And he pours cold water over people. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in a way, it is a big deal if you're one of the people that got the cold water poured over your head. Now, forgiveness comes in many forms here. It could be, that sort of forgiveness for an 11-year-old boy. Well, don't do that again. And it's a fatherly sort of forgiveness that way. There could be worse types of acts that involve tremendous forgiveness. Did Huntington ever go past just that light sort of forgiveness for doing things, that are pranksterish? Or did he do anything really, really bad in his life too, Francis?
He gets himself into a situation where he thinks he's got to hang himself.
Oh, no.
Commit suicide.
That young. Why did he want to commit suicide at that point?
He thought he had to because something that was going on that he didn't understand.
Did he think he had to commit suicide because it made him into a bad person?
No, he thought he had to commit suicide to save his brothers.
So he was committing suicide, sacrificing himself for the life of somebody else then. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And that is very noble. Now, we're assuming that he actually did not commit suicide. Maybe God intervened at that point. Did God intervene?
God intervened, but he didn't do it. Well, he intervened. He said he didn't need to do it.
Right.
But he also brought somebody in who Huntington would listen to.
Now.
A boy not much older than Huntington.
Yes, I understand.
About 13.
About 13.
Who found him.
Yes.
With a rope around his neck and helped him out of the situation.
Right, and saved his life. And that boy that was 13 was probably sent by God, maybe. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Look at that. Now, give me another minute here, and I'm going to talk to my listeners. This is gripping stuff, people. Francis Green has written a very, very important book for you to read. It's called Huntington, and it's all about a boy named Huntington that she's been talking about who started out just as a little prankster and maybe pouring cold water over people's heads. And, he had to get God's forgiveness for that. But God didn't mind forgiving an 11-year-old boy. But then that boy heard something over the phone that made him want to commit suicide, to hang himself. Not because he did anything bad at that point to hang himself, but because he wanted to sacrifice himself for somebody else, for the life of somebody else. Now, in the Bible, that comes very close to Abraham and Isaac, if we're talking about the love of God, where Isaac, the son of Abraham, didn't do anything wrong, but Abraham was ready to sacrifice his life because he thought that God wanted him to do that. But God stopped it. God intervened and saved the life of young Isaac. It's very, very important that God intervenes sometimes in some of the human confusion that we have in life. And Frances is detailing that in her wonderful book, Huntington, How Much God Loves You. And I want you to order that book at Amazon.com. It sounds like a wonderful book. And Frances is such a very, very nice person who's talking about it right now on People of Distinction. Is there anything else that you want to add about your book, Huntington, to our listeners right now, Frances?
I'd like people to read it, of course, but you've said that. And I want people to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glorify God, not to glorify me, but to glorify God, so more people come to know Him.
Absolutely. We need more people to come to know God the way that God knows you as one of His children, and also the way that God loves you. And it's so wonderfully put in Huntington. And you can order that at Amazon.com. And I'm going to add one more thing to that. And this goes out to you, my People of Distinction listeners right now. Frances knows God as well. Now, Frances obviously is a senior citizen, I believe, who comes from England.
Yes.
She's had a long and glorious life. Now she's imparting some of her wisdom to you. Maybe not all the time through the interview. We understand that she sometimes has to take her time, and that's okay on our show. But her book, Huntington, is her heart and soul pouring out to you through God. God asked her to write this book, Huntington, about a young boy of 11 years old who goes through so many trials and errors that also you have gone through. My People of Distinction listeners right now, I'm talking to you. And so Frances was asked by God to write this book. So that means it's a divine book. It's a beautiful book to read. And it's a beautiful book to be inspired by, to know how much God loves you. Am I saying it right? Am I on the right track there, Frances?
You are, yes, definitely.
Yes. So I want my listeners to order this book. And I want you to know that on People of Distinction with Al Cole, this is how we talk. We talk about the real things in life that really matter. And nothing more matters more than God and the love of God. And the love that we have for each other through God, just like the love that you have for our humanity to make you write this book, the love that Huntington had in your book to sacrifice his own life, to be willing to do that for somebody else's life. This is real People of Distinction stuff, and we're so happy that we had you on this interview, Frances. A wonderful, wonderful book that you have, and you can order it one more time, you, my listening audience. You order it at Amazon.com. And one more time, she was brought to People of Distinction by Author Reputation Press. And you can get in touch with them because they can move your next book for you. And they can do a wonderful job. AuthorReputationPress.com. Thank you so much, Frances, for being my special guest in this spotlight interview on People of Distinction with Al Cole. We wish you all the very best with your book and in your life.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And God bless you, Frances.
God bless you too.